I'm such a fan. I'm a little bit nervous.
Oh, don't be. How have you been enjoying the internet the last couple months?
It's been, well, it's been crazy.
I
It
bet.
went from bad to finding myself, I guess, kind of coming back to reality.
Yeah.
And in a way, it all was just kind of, I was off internet for 2 years almost. I posted my videos about surgery complications maybe like 4 years ago. But, I was getting a lot of messages from other trans-identified individuals saying that they also had complications. And for a while, I was still like trans-identified, and I was kind of trying to support those people, and they were also not feeling so alone.
Yeah.
Then I kind of left like internet in 2000, end of 19, like during pandemic. I was just busy.
Oh,
I got two relationships at the same time because I'm polyamorous, and I was genuinely happy. I was in love with two beautiful people. So I kind of didn't care for internet. I was detached, wasn't checking no comments, no nothing. And then I kind of I lost one of my partners because he no longer wanted to share me. So like he broke up with me. So I mean he made me choose, between him and Catman. So my fiance, I chose Catman because Catman at the time moved to Massachusetts to be with me. And So obviously I chose somebody who like traveled across thousands of miles to be with me. But then losing of that relationship really affected me. And plus we were shopping for a house during like the peak of house shopping.
oh
So it was
no.
a very stressful summer that I went through. And then Catman realized he hated Massachusetts, so he left. And he was like, come with me to Colorado. I was like, no, like I can't. I still have to take care of my family, and all that. So at the time, I was not in a good mental state, and I went online again, and I saw that my videos, were used by Exolansik at the time, to analyze. But at the time, I was very much like stuck in ideology that I'm just like a woman. I just had bad luck with surgeries that I'm going to at some point hopefully fix this. And so obviously that initially affected my mental health because, at the time I wasn't willing to acknowledge that X16 was right. And I was getting a lot of message from so-called turfs, but I was not
What
in a good mental state.
what was the content of the messages from the so-called turfs?
Well, they were like, some of it was just really feeling bad for me, but at the time, I didn't want to be felt bad. I was just very much, I'm a trans woman. This is like a normal experience
Hmm.
of sacrificing everything to be a woman. It's like, and some of it was negatives that were like, you mutilated yourself. You're gonna like regret this till the rest of your life. And I really, it sent me in a difficult, mental space. And, I kind of left the internet. I mean, me and XY we had some fallout. Obviously, people like know about it. But looking back at it, honestly, her like analyzing my video and doing all that was the best things that could have happened. It kind of woke me up from the state of delusions, really. So I'm really grateful for her in the long run. But anyways, all that kind of made me delete my channel because I just couldn't handle all the onslaught of people like commenting on my video. So I left YouTube, like I deactivated my channel, lost all little subscribers that I had, and I went into actual therapy, because I was in a gutters. Like I lost two partners back to back. I was left alone. I still was struggling. Also at the time I had back pain like that summer, and I didn't know what it was. So I went, I went and started figuring out what it was, and I realized I had osteoporosis. I went for a bone scan. I realized I was getting scoliosis, osteoporosis due to my transition. And so all that, having like actual physical pain in my back pain, plus therapy, kind of made me realize that. Also, what happened was I was talking to endocrinologist, and I was like once we realized I had bone density loss, we wanted to go up in my hormones. So she was like, you can either take estrogen or testosterone. And I was like, I have no sex drive at all. I have no energy. I barely have motivation to do anything. I feel like literally so lethargic all the freaking time. So after doing some research, I was like, let's do testosterone, even though like part of me like was kind of when you're trans, I guess, they brainwash you, especially M2F, said like testosterone is bad for you. It's something that puts you through like this disgusting male puberty and masculinized you. So
Yeah.
it was kind of scary, to put my first testosterone patch on. Now I'm doing injections, but at the time I was doing a patch. And as soon as like I started getting some testosterone in my body, it felt like this fog started lifting off my brain. It's like I started feeling tingling in my crotch, like remnants of my penis started like catching on fire.
Oh.
I started getting interested in my genitalia, like even so before I wasn't, yeah, for all these years. And I was like, whoa, like it's almost like a part of me started coming back online. It's like, it felt like I killed a version of myself that was like trying to come back online. And I was like, wow, I was such a different person. And I realized all these years I was just like so sad and lethargic and depressed and so much anxiety. And I wasn't really myself. That was the main part. Like I forgot how vibrant I was, how more excited about life I was. And testosterone started kind of bringing that back into my life. And I started assessing the last 10 years of my life. And that's when I realized I made a huge mistake. I was never a woman. Like I really needed testosterone to be myself. And I realized as I went through therapy, I realized just how much internalized homophobia I had. Because
Okay.
I was a proud gay man. And somehow from that, I went to being a trans woman where I was like, I'm not gay, I'm a woman, stuck in the
Hmm.
wrong body. And it just was like, so looking back now that I've grown so much more, I realized it was such a toxic ideology to adhere to, that like I'm stuck in a wrong body and I need to take these artificial hormones and do these like dramatic surgeries that don't even work. Try to be a woman and try to be something that I wasn't. I was never a woman. I think I just latched onto it because I was always very bullied for my natural femininity
Okay.
all my life. And
Where did
I
you
was,
where did you grow up? What culture?
I grew up in Muslim country in kind of like Eastern Europe slash Middle East.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, also like it, Islam is homophobic, and from early on, let's just say it's the way it is, it is homophobic, and but it's not transphobic because in Iran, for example, they're literally doing surgeries.
They
You can,
trans the
it's
gay
a
away. Yeah.
Yes, they do. They're literally doing that. It's like they
Did you
have a
hear of
lot of.
that before you decided to transition?
I did not know that. And honestly,
Okay.
I knew about it, but honestly, it kind of made me reassured more because I was like, okay, I'm trans, I'm not gay, because being gay almost was like the worst things that could happen to you. So in a way, I guess I latched onto it because it was a way out of my homophobia. And also like it was kind of gave me a chance to be heteronormative, It almost like you were moving up in ladder in society.
Yeah.
It's in a fucked up way. That's how my brain sold it to myself. Also, I was looking for answers because, growing up as a kid, I tried to butch it up. I tried to be more masculine because as a gay guy, there are some gay guys that are straight passing, so they have that privilege. They can go down the street or just go on with their lives without people really knowing they're gay unless they want to come out as gay. Like they can selectively come out to people if they
But
want to.
your femininity as a man was highly policed in your
It
country of origin
was.
and in your
It
culture. Yeah.
was, yeah. My mom was always like, "Oh, I wish you were like other boys. I wish you were taller and more masculine." She gave me 2 kung fu classes, trying to butch me up, and everybody
Hmm.
was beating me up because I couldn't like. Yeah, it was just really bad. I was bullied mercilessly in school, called like fag and all that stuff. So it was finally like I honestly, but even when I moved to US, I was still proudly gay. You know, I was growing out my hair because I like androgynous look. I like kind of confusing people. You know, going into the male bathroom and people would like give me like I wasn't enjoying my femininity without thinking that I was actually a woman. You know, but then I went to school once, and you know, I was asked like, "What are your pronouns?" Because I was like having more longer and longer hair, and like
Mhm.
that's when I was like, "What pronouns?" And so I started like researching more, and once I did more research, I kind of like things started clicking in my head that like, yeah, when I was a kid, I was already like exhibiting gender nonconforming behavior.
Yeah.
And you know, I would put a towel around my head, pretend it's my long hair. I would sneak Barbies into the bathroom and play with them.
Hmm.
You know, secretly I would steal my sister's Barbies, or dolls. I mean, they weren't Barbie dolls, they were just like dolls. But anyway, so I kind of latched onto it. I was like, oh yeah, like I must be a woman trapped in a man's body. So right away, I kind of went into a transition mode. You know, I wanted to like feminize myself. All of a sudden, this like desire to feminize myself started coming on. And as I started feminizing myself, I
More than
became,
you actually were already. You started
right,
to
yeah.
produce it and reify it.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
because once I went to a cult meeting, also known as transgender conference, it's called like First Event. It's
Oh.
every January in Massachusetts. Back then, it was just like sponsored mostly by surgeons, and there were like a lot of surgeons were coming and giving presentation, having consultation in hotel rooms, which looking back is so sleazy, you know, like,
Hmm.
right. And there would be people, you know, giving classes to cross dressers how to act more feminine, which is like now I know what kind of people they were, but back then I couldn't really understand the whole like what's trans, what's cross dressing. You know, I felt like I thought I was a woman, you know, but when I went to cult meetings, a lot of them were middle aged men, you know, in wigs and cross dressing. Like that was like 80% of people that were attending the cult meeting slash conference.
Hmm.
So now it's a little different. Now it's more corporate sponsored. You know, if you go to a cult meeting now, there's definitely all these corporations having tables, giving out free stuff, kind of like a pride type of stuff, you know, showing support to trans communities. So it
Yeah.
definitely has come a long way. Back then it wasn't. You know, I was just mostly just surgeons trying to sell plastic surgeries, trying to give presentations.
Was this encapsulated within a larger community, the LGBT community that you were part of, or?
Yeah, in a way, it
And did you
was
find a
because
home when you moved to America and you found that there's these communities existed and it's okay to be open about that? Did you plug into that?
that's not how it happened. Like once I found out about pronouncing, I you know I started feminizing myself more, and as I started dating so-called guys who are attracted to feminine boys, the more feminine the better, you know. They were like, oh, are you going to take hormones, like they're going to make your skin softer, you know. It was just like, I
Huh.
don't know if it's the right thing for me, you know. People were like, are you going to have the surgery? I'm like, I don't know if I want to have the surgery because that's going to make me like other woman. I enjoy being unique. So somehow I went from that to like, okay, I guess I need, and some people were like, oh, you're not feminine enough. Like I was feminine enough for certain people, but for other people were like, yeah, like I'm not still feminine enough, you
So,
know. And
so
it was just like,
you went from a childhood where your society was telling you you're not masculine enough to this other
right,
society that's telling you that you're not feminine enough.
right, exactly.
So
So
there's
they were
always
like,
this external pressure to put you into a
exactly,
category.
yes. No, for sure. I mean, 100%. And then I was like, okay, I guess I need to take hormones to maybe feminize myself more, you know. And I grew up chubby as a kid, and when I lost weight, like I had natural curves and small even when I went through puberty, because I was chubby, I had like small TDs, you know. So I was feminine, I guess. It's more so I thought I needed hormones because I was trans, you know, and I needed like was a natural step to be like a real trans and not just a cross dresser, you know, or something like that.
Yeah.
So I went to Fenway Health, which was one of the biggest hospitals in one of the biggest in the country that researches LGBTQ stuff, and they were actually one of the first hospitals to test Truvada and all those drugs, you know. And they've done a lot of research over the years. So when I went there to get hormones, it was just like physician assistant giving me hormones. Um, I think her name was Julie Thompson. I'm exposing everyone. I don't care. I'm gonna say those names. So I think she still works at Fenway, and it's a lot of their staff is LGBT, you know, Q. plus plus now. Like, so most of their staff is like gay or lesbian or now trans as well. So yeah, that's when they told me, there's cult meetings, also known as transgender conferences. Like if you want to go and see, like, because at the time there was no surgeons in Massachusetts that would like do bottom surgery and all that, So I was like, okay, yeah, perfect. Like I'll go to a cult meeting. So that's how I ended up going there, and that's when I was like, oh, there's many more like me. Like I'm not alone,
Yeah, yeah.
But I also didn't see too much representation of myself because a lot of those people, as I said, were middle-aged men. And in my head at the time, I thought like, oh, they were trans women as well, like me, but they had to adhere to heteronormative standards and they were just afraid to come out earlier. I didn't understand the whole AGP thing at the time,
Yeah.
So that's how my mind interpreted it. I'm like, they were just like trans women like me. They just weren't as fortunate to realize that sooner.
Mm-hmm.
So
and so during this whole process of getting information, let's say, nobody brought up like mental health.
No, that's another thing.
the
Like
concept of the self.
now, like that I'm in real therapy, not the therapy, because the last time I had therapy was just to get letters for my surgery. Like I'm
Okay.
not even
And
kidding.
they encourage that therapy's only there to get you in the door.
Honestly, I was so convinced I was meant to be a woman. One of the
Yeah.
biggest fears, like I'll be honest, like going into therapy, I was afraid that they won't give me letters on time. Every other session, I was like, oh, can I get letters yet? Can I get letters yet? So I was so brainwashed that this was the right thing for me and this would solve all my anxiety and depression and like things that I was going through. Like I was going through that all my life pretty much because like I was, regardless whether you're trans or just like super feminine boy, like we're like living at the fringes of society, especially as the place where I grew up. Like we're already traumatized, like to start with. And I feel like I latched onto it because I saw it as a solution to my problems, know?
Yeah.
And
I think that it doesn't sound like you were brainwashed. It sounds like you had to process so much. You were not given the time to have a childhood free of all this stress. And this was finally like, you're fine. You're you. And we're going to help you be you. So I don't even think it was brainwashing so much as that it was the opportunity for you to escape
that's what I'm saying.
The pressures that you've been.
Looking back, I don't think it was gender dysphoria. It was social dysphoria. Like I'm trying to coin that term or at least popularize it. Because
let's expand on that. Because when you would look at yourself in the mirror, did you have any disgust with your body when you grew facial hair? When you masculinized, was there a reaction to that?
Not initially. I mean, as I said, I was like, I enjoyed my curves as a chubby person, I guess. I was kind of like liking it. But I don't know, not initially. I think I had maybe some hair dysphoria. So like even when I was a gay boy, I guess I was trying to get rid of those of body hair and facial hair. Yeah. I think it seems to be common, like Kluniak is going through that. So he was saying on his channel how he has like hair dysphoria. Like, but again, like that's easily fixed through like laser and like electrolysis. There was no need for like insane hormonal. A lot of gay dudes, lasers their body and they're not transitioning,
Yeah,
so I had discussed maybe like with my body hair a little bit, and I didn't like the facial hair that I had too much, I didn't fully hate it, but I didn't like it. I think it was normal. Every person doesn't like maybe some aspects of their body. I mean, looking back, I do have body dysmorphia. Growing up chubby, I never felt sexy or wanted. So I overall just was uncomfortable with my body. But the funny part, that feeling never went away, even through all the surgeries and body modifications. As I mentioned on my channel, like I really still don't feel sexy. I still don't feel comfortable now more than ever, now that I mutilated my genitals and I don't really like have such fun times having sex. It's like, but I never felt 100% comfortable in my body, and that feeling never went away. And I think it is body dysmorphia, because even when I would look, I wouldn't feel disgust, but I would feel awkward and not 100% sexy, and that feeling really never went away. That shy boy that was battered, he needed therapy. He never it was a software issue, and it was just like I kept on modifying my hardware, but the software was still the same, and that's why I was still that unhappy, traumatized person. But on top of that, like I lost my testosterone, and I was like lethargic, and and
So when you
not being
first
able to
went
do,
on
yeah.
estrogen, they, from my understanding, they usually block the testosterone so the estrogen can work, right? So
Yes, I did
that
take
first period,
blockers
was
too.
there like that euphoria thing, or did?
No, actually, no. Honestly, it was worse because my dick started shrinking and like
Okay,
I actually got more depressed. But I attributed it as like part of transition, like once I do the surgery, I'll be fine. And I was telling that, to my therapist that like, I'm sad, like because also I started hating my dick for some reason. Once I started taking estrogen, it's like somebody would touch it. I would like, no, don't touch me. Like I'm a woman. This part doesn't belong on my
okay.
body. I don't know
So
how I
then the
went
gender
from like
dysphoria kicks in at that point.
I think so. I think hormones definitely pulled me down the spiral.
Hmm.
That's why I say when people say, "Oh, not a big deal, take some blockers, try hormones, see how you feel." It's not a joke having cross-sex hormones in yourself when you were masculinized as a man, went through actual male puberty. It's not a joke. Like it definitely messes with your mind and makes you more confused. And I think it definitely brought more confusion, madness, and chaos into my life, taking hormones. But at the time I was like, I'm a woman, like I'm gonna do this. And I felt like all those people who wanted to play with my dick were just tranny chasers. That's what transgender ideology tells you. Like they're tranny chasers, they're highly transphobic people. They don't see you as a woman. They just want to play with your dick and like,
Oh,
and I was like, oh, I guess all of a sudden my dating pools that expanded is like not the right dating pool for me because they don't see me as a woman, which is so toxic. Like looking back, like I was never a woman. What's wrong with people who are attracted to somebody like me who's super feminine but still has a penis? And I actually did have people trying to talk me out of surgery. I had one guy telling me that he was actually married to a trans woman, and like we were chatting online, and he told me that like once that person had the surgeries, their mental health went down the hill. And he was telling me like, don't do it. It's like you have functional penis right now, but you're not gonna have functional vagina, whatever they're selling you. And he was actually a medical professional himself too. He was an actual doctor. But I went online and I was like on Susan.org. Back then Susan.org was popular. Now it's kind of a dead website. It's on Reddit more or less. So
okay,
I
yeah.
went online and I was like, guys, like this is what people are telling me. And like it's like, no, don't listen to them. They're just tranny chasers. They're trying to talk you out of it because they want you to keep your penis. So honestly, there was like this like push not to listen to anybody who says otherwise. And my parents were telling me it will never work, like Bill saying, not because they knew any research. That was more religious spin on things. But now I kind of understand that because I went through like my own spiritual journey. That like this whole thing triggered my own whole like spiritual journey that
Really?
I'm probably wanna yeah, I don't know, we'll have time to go into it, but like yeah, so I guess they were right in a way, but they had more religious spin on it, and that's why I was not willing to listen, because transgender community almost wants you to detach from people who think otherwise. It's kind of cult-like mentalities that want to sucker you in, cut you off from people who actually love you for you. This transition costed me like my relationship with my parents. It costed me a relationship with my grandma. My parents won't let me video chat with her because they say she'll have a heart attack if she sees
Oh.
how much I feminized myself. So it's kind of
Mm.
sad, but my grandma always loved me. She never saw me as a freak. She actually loved me for me. So it's just kind of sad that I sacrificed so many years of not having that relationship. Honestly, it's like so emotional.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure that the opportunity will open.
Yeah. So that's kind of, I gave it my 100% to this transition. I was like so dedicated. um,
Hmm.
yeah. So, and during therapy, nobody tackled my childhood trauma. Nobody tackled like that I have borderline personality disorder. And like and some other issues, body dysmorphia. I didn't even know I had body dysmorphia. I never understood why I still don't feel sexy in my own body, or never at any point did I feel fully comfortable.
Yeah.
Even when I had like just titties and dick, like I just but as I started doing more research, due to like exercise things, that kind of opened up my eyes. I started like researching this like other side of things. And I'm like, these people are right. Like the reason I was defending this ideology for so long, and I fought back initially, and I was like TRA for a little while, it was because I was literally a guinea pig, the Stockholm syndrome. I was ready to protect my abusers, which was transgender medical care, and honestly, that's what it was. Despite how I felt like they experimented on me and did all this damage to my psyche and body, I built this identity, and it was almost easier to fight for it than like face the reality.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very hard to come back to reality, but my therapist kind of gave me strength to come out,
Okay.
and she encouraged me to write a book. But as I started writing, I also have ADHD. I was like not really writing too much. And I was like, I like talking more. So I'm like, you know what, time is going by and every day is just, because I started like watching Reddit from a different eye, the transgender subreddit. And I saw how like all these people, like moderators of the forums of transgender section of surgeries, they were not really trying to help people, and like they were really trying to push medicalization on people in a way, because people would come and post something like, I don't know if I should have like surgery within a year or in 3 years, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wait, maybe like better technology will come around. Even when I was a TRA or like trans activist or trans identified person, I was always like 4 years ago, I started talking that like the surgery doesn't seem right. Like, guys, we need new tissues. Like, this is not working out. Like, I was very open about it,
Mm-hmm.
even though my goal of transition was to like be stealth, just live quietly, not be online, just like live and be left alone, because that's what I wanted. But I came online because I wanted to warn other people. So as my eyes are opened, I realized like they're really like telling people to get surgeries. Because when I was writing like, oh, wait 3 years, like that person who asked, shall I wait 1 year or 3? And then moderator of the forum, Hidden Still, was like, don't listen to that person. That person has complications, Then somebody came online and wrote like, I went to see therapist, and therapist was telling me maybe I have like body dysmorphia and not gender dysphoria. And then people like, oh no, that's like a transphobic therapist. Go get a different therapist that will confirm, your gender dysphoria, you're trans. Then I saw one man write like, oh, sorry.
No,
Go ahead.
what does the community do when presented with evidence of a botched surgery? Something absolutely undeniably gone wrong.
Right.
How do
They're
they?
like, oh, you're just like 1%. You're just 1% who has complication and
Is there
regrets.
any kind of support for
No, not really. I mean, they
disabled?
feel sad for you. They're like, I'm so sorry it
Okay.
happened to you. Moving on. It's like, it's not
Okay.
like the only, but I think just things start adding up to me, like when people start reaching out to me, like especially one trans person reached out to me, because I was always blaming myself for doing surgery too soon. I did it in 2015. I was like, if I waited, I could have went to a different surgeon. Maybe I could have had peritoneal pull-through, which is like the hottest surgery right now. But because I had those videos online, this person reached out to me and said that like they just had that surgery not that long ago in New York and had peritoneal pull-through, and they had 2 more revisions, and they still only have like 1 or 2 inches, and they're unable to have sex. And now they're looking into colon vaginoplasty, which I had. That doesn't work either. So I'm like, this is like a big circle jerk. And then that person told me she talked like to 4 or 5 other people who were in the same boat. Like they literally, their vagina also shut down despite rigorous dilation. And I've seen people post on Reddit and be like, oh, my girlfriend got like peritoneal pull through. Her vagina is so tight. Like, what do we do? And it's just like nobody responding. Nobody pays attention.
Okay.
And
And this perennial postule, I don't understand the Latin there, but it's just
yeah,
the
it's a new
neovagina
method.
starts to contract or
It's a new method where they took a part of your peritoneal. I think it's part of lining of your stomach or something. I don't really
oh,
know because I haven't had that.
okay.
Yeah, it's a hottest surgery right now. Some people who can get like free surgeries in Canada, they're literally using their life savings or looking into using their life savings to come
Okay.
to US to get that surgery, because I
Wow.
don't think it's offered in Canada. Yeah, but I
But
talked to people.
these
Yeah.
body tissues never change what they are. So they're always acting like they are. Like the
Yeah.
colon
I
will
think
always act like the colon. The
yes,
stomach lining
exactly.
will
They
always
don't.
act like yeah.
But the logic behind it, I think that peritoneal lining has more like, it produces some
Moisture.
kind of liquid moisture. And that's
Yeah.
why, like, I guess penile inversion now people are realizing it's not optimal. So in 2018, they started doing this surgery, peritoneal pull-through. If you Google it, like it was some patient who literally like approached Dr. Ting in New York and was like, hey, do you want to do the surgery on me as an experiment? And they did it and kind of took off. Like, literally, they're tweaking this as they go. Like, I'm not even kidding you guys. Like, this is so insane. Wow. They did that, I think, on Jazz Jennings. They gave her like a patchwork vagina that fell apart. I'm telling you, they're experimenting on us. This is not cute. And the reason I'm speaking out because I'm so angry. I feel like the whole detrans people have been popping up on the scene, like going back 2-3 years, but people are still getting surgeries at high numbers, you know? And I was trying still to pretend to be trans, and I was trying to talk people out on the Reddit, but I was getting shut down. And that's when I took a more radical approach. I'm like, you know what? I'm joining the other side because this is not right. What happened to me shouldn't happen to other people. I realized how much my life would have been better the last 10 years had I just been authentic self instead of trying to pretend to be a woman and live in the shadows and can't even share my issues with people because like you can't just go and be telling friends in real life and social lives that I went through all those horrific surgeries, you know, that don't even work. It's like, it's very isolating, you know, it's like, and I think 80% of trans community don't even get surgery. They're just non-ops, you know, they're just living their lives. They're waving trans flag, save trans kids, versus like they're protecting medicalization and they're promoting it in a way, but they're never even gonna do it or taking steps. They don't even know what it does to you. Like, you know, they think they're just pretty much like cross-dressing or they'll take a little estrogen if at all. Like,
and because you're suggesting that's irresponsible of them.
What? That's irresponsible,
you're suggesting,
for sure.
Yeah.
It is irresponsible because in a way they don't know what people, just because you are not planning to do anything doesn't mean that the kid online or young person, impressionable, vulnerable person who is looking for some answers to their problems might see that and might decide that, oh, why don't I still look as beautiful as that person or as feminine? Some people are naturally feminine, you know, it's like, I didn't have to do that much. Like I was naturally feminine. Granted, I'm more feminine now because I did have facial surgeries and stuff, but like, people even now, they're messaging me and being like, oh, I'm still going to take estrogen because I want to look like you. And I'm like, this is stupid. Like, don't do it. It's not worth it. Estrogen doesn't do as much as people think it does. You know, honestly, I don't think it gives like, I see so many people writing, oh, I've been on HRT for 2-3 years, but I still don't have the hourglass figure. You know, I think a lot of people think they're going to take like estrogen or testosterone and like
just like this
turn into a
woman pill. Just like
it's not. Okay. It doesn't work that way. And a lot of this trans like I looked up to trans influencers, you know, like back in the days, Gigi Gorgeous still hasn't had the surgery, you know, she's smart. You know, I looked up, you know, to other people who are non-ops, you know, they're literally just got titties and wearing some makeup or like, I'm a woman, but I can only imagine how many kids look up to Gigi Gorgeous and some other people and got medicalized, you know, and I strongly believe like there's going to be a huge wave of detransitioners. We're just seeing the tip of iceberg. This is honestly going to go down in history as definitely one of the biggest medical scandals. Like
it's hard to believe, especially with the amount of counter propaganda that's being pushed from the highest levels of government to the lowest levels of the internet.
It doesn't matter. The truth will always prevail. I feel like right now we're being hated on and people saying the reason I'm doing this because like I'm internalizing transphobia and it's like I made a mistake and now I'm blaming others. But what exactly was my mistake? You know, I was convinced I had gender dysphoria. I sought help from medical professionals who were allegedly certified to help me, you know, and they affirmed my delusions at the time, I guess, or my desire to use this as a solution to my problems instead of telling me that, like, you know, maybe you have other issues. Let's explore that first. This is a radical medical intervention. Like, this is no joke. This, if it helps some real trans people, this should be as a last step of intervention. Like, people should definitely be offered more tools, you know? I don't know what to say.
When you're starting to experience cognitive dissonance, you see Excelensic's video on you, and you start to your mental framework starts to collapse. And I'm sure that that's
Right.
pretty crazy making, anxiety making, maybe a little breakdowny making. You get in contact with a therapist. What does a therapist allow you to start to do? Like, what questions do you start? What kind of perspective on yourself do you start to take that starts to ground you? How do you get to a place where you start to accept and love and heal?
Um, I don't know. I feel like once therapy started, I almost start solving problem. Like as I started talking more, I just realized I had childhood trauma,
Hmm.
and I realized just how much trauma I had. Like as I tried to tackle all this, because I lost my partners, I realized that like, I am not a good partner due to all the trauma and due to everything I went through. Like something is wrong with me. And as I started like, also at the time I already started taking testosterone, and I was like starting to realize that like I'm still this effed up person I was before transition. And now I also have to heal from trauma inflicted upon me through like the surgeries and through like this transition, plus being online and being like targeted,
Hmm.
for my videos. And it was just like, she just started talking to me. I don't know. It was just a talk therapy. And as I started talking with her, like a lot started coming out, from my childhood. And I realized like, it was honestly not so much therapist, like, but when the hormones hit my body, the right hormones,
Hmm.
and I felt like I wasn't myself all these years, and that person that started coming online wanted to be more present and wanted to heal, and that's when I realized that this this medicalization of my situation didn't help me, didn't solve any of my problems, and I don't know. It just kind of was self-realization. I don't think it was anything she said or asked me. I like to talk a lot, so I guess every therapy, like, she barely gets to say anything. I'm just like filling the out. So I think that's how it went down. To be honest, like,
Hmm.
I feel like I'm such a complicated person that like it's gonna be hard for average therapist to tackle what went wrong because a bunch of different things went wrong, and it's
Hmm.
like she just started like talking to me and trying to like, she also raised concerns, like she did, as I started raising my concerns that like I don't think this was the right thing for me transitioning. She said that like she went to like she does continuing education, and she went to a conference and they were parading a trans child around them, and being like, this is what trans child looks like. The only thing you can do is affirm their gender. And like, she was the first one who told me I had body dysmorphia, because I kept on telling her like, I can't have like, I still don't feel sexy. All I can focus on is like scars underneath my breasts, on my labia, and whatever, on remnants of my penis. And she was
Hmm.
like, you have body dysmorphia. And that's when it's like, wow, I have a severe body dysmorphia. And that was like a big clue to why I didn't feel comfortable in my own body.
Hmm.
That kind of explained a lot of things, like why throughout my life I never felt like fully sexy, fully connected with my own body, no matter what I did to it, no matter how I feminized it. So yeah, like now that you asked me that question, I think that was a big clue that like I really didn't have body dysmorphia. And I also told to her how like traumatized I was from like childhood for being like very feminine, and so it just started clicking in me. I never could understand why like some people like Jeffree Star, let's say, who can own their femininity but not transition. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's a very feminine man. He wears makeup and hair. He's
Hmm.
a popular YouTuber. So like looking back, I realized like I was just probably like a dude like him, if I didn't get caught up in gender ideology.
Hmm.
I don't know. I just realized just how much trauma living styles and like trying to have sex with mutilated body parts did to me, and how much it stole my 20s kind of. And I felt angry. I was like, wow, I could have just been having a fun gay sex. And I realized things never felt right. Trying to have sex with heteronormative woman look-alike with mutilated body parts was just never fun. And I'm a gay dude, I also, once testosterone hit my body, I realized like my sexuality has changed over the years. Before I felt like okay, if I lose my dick, I don't really need it because I'm a bottom. But now I've changed. Like I'm more like becoming more dominant.
Hmm.
I want to, use my part, and it's not there anymore. I start having like phantom limb thing. I wake up in the morning, I feel like my penis is still there, but it's
The
not.
phantom peen.
Phantom limb thing. I don't know what it's called. I mean, you guys are
Yeah,
smart.
yeah.
You know what I'm talking
No, no,
about.
no. You said it right.
That
I was just making a
did I
joke.
say it right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I literally sometimes I wake up and I feel like I can't move my like penis, because I would get boners in the morning like every dude. And like now that I'm getting testosterone, sometimes I wake up, I'm like, oh, I have a boner, and then I reach down and it's not there. It's like so
Oh,
traumatic.
yeah. Yeah.
It is very traumatic, and that's how I know like I made a huge mistake. Like I wish my penis was there. I wish I could, you know, fuck my fiance's ass, but I will never be able to do that. And I'm angry. Like this ideology took my balls, took my penis, and I feel, yeah, I feel like
So
they did wrong. I was
there
not
is.
a Yeah, that's another thing. Like trans communities tell me that the problem is I had rapid onset of gender dysphoria. I'm not a real trans person, and they're like real trans people know from very young age who they really are.
Oh, so
And
they
I'm like,
revoked your trans status once you started to question
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
They're like you're just a
Never
gay
been.
dude with. Yeah, yeah, I never was really trans. That's a problem. Like real trans people know who they really are from very young age. I'm like, okay, that's
Hmm.
very dangerous statement to make in this environment because as we grow through life, your sexual preferences can change. The way you feel can change. You're not the same person. You may have not gone through transition like I did and this radical transformation, but you're also not the same Ben you were 10, 20 years ago. Like
Mm-hmm.
a version of you dies kind of as you go through life, and like the way you feel about the world, about yourself, your place in society changes. It's very dangerous to make a permanent decision based on how you feel in that moment in time and how society is in that moment in time. You know what I mean? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
extremely dangerous statement to make. It makes me really angry. People telling me that I was never a real trans. Like, I guess I was convinced enough to leave my balls in dick at the altar. So.
Hmm. That's one way to put it. So you have legitimate cause to have extreme amounts of anger and regret and
I
sadness,
do. Yeah.
and that could very well run you or anybody else aground. You mentioned spirituality. I wonder if there's a sense of connectedness that has helped you, or a sense of belonging or being that has helped you to not succumb to total despair in this time.
Yeah. So in 2018, when I had another revision, another revision, and like which resulted in fistula. And that surgeon, Dr. Salgado, was later found doing a lot of unethical things and got fired. You can Google his name, Christopher Salgado. You'll see all this insane articles. He wasn't fired. He resigned, and now he's still working as plastic surgeon on other people. There's like really no repercussions for really butchering anyone in this industry, unless even if you kill them, they'll probably find a way to explain, like that the patient died. Like first surgeon who worked on me did my first surgery. He had a patient die on an operating table. You can Google it. Sherman Liss is his name. He's this like old man in Pennsylvania. He's almost in his 80s. He's still doing the surgeries every week on people, even though he had a patient die on an operating table. They still were somehow explaining that away. Just Google him, Sherman Lee's like patient death or something. It will come up. So this is how effed up the whole thing is. Like, yeah. So in 2018, like after I came back to Massachusetts from Florida, at the time I lived for a while in Florida. Mind you, I was living with a medical doctor for 2 years, and he was with me through the surgeries, and they still managed to watch me up. And like, he was completely shocked how like mistreated I was in hospital, how like surgeon before knocking me out on drugs to do revision on me, he was like, "Oh, don't worry, even if it doesn't work, there's more to life than vaginal sex." He literally says that to me in front of my boyfriend at the time, and like bunch of surgeons. So when I'm telling you I was abused by medical system, by surgeons, I'm not fucking kidding. Like I was abused. Like it wasn't just like, oh, come on in, let's do surgeries on you. People would make comments like, like that, it was just like completely inappropriate for somebody to say that to me right when they're about to do revision on me to try to expand my vaginal tunnel. I mean, this is just so sad and like so unethical. Like this is just so. I mean, it will be another hour for me just to talk about the abuse I face in the medical system, this hormonal situation. But let's talk about spirituality. So anyway, initially in Florida, when I was having complications, I was like, my world was crushing because I was so convinced I was meant to be a woman, and I felt like I was gonna have the surgery. I'll just dilate on schedule, and like I'll be able to spread my legs and take a dick, because I'm HSTS, like I like sex with men, So and that was the goal of the surgery, and I was made to believe that I will achieve that goal, but it wasn't happening. My body was treating it as a wound. It was shutting down no matter how hard I dilated. So I just didn't know. And plus I ended up with a fistula. So I was like, didn't know what to do. So I felt very suicidal. Like I was like, this is it. I need some kind of radical something happening in my life, or I'm going to like kill myself, because this is just like disaster. So I ended up doing ayahuasca, which was popular at the time, to try to heal myself from trauma, So I was, even before I went to therapy, I was already questioning things, This all was in the making. It wasn't just X16 situations and therapy and testosterone. Like this was in the making for years for me to like finally being fed up. I was trying to speak out even earlier, but people were like, if you post something too radical online, nobody will work on you to fix your surgeries. So I was almost blackmailed in a way. Like people were telling me, if you like trash your surgeons too much and expose them, nobody.
You're up shit creek without a paddle.
Yeah, so it's like nobody will ever fix your vagina, whatever, like front hole. And like that's why I was like staying silent for so long. It wasn't just like Solansik. People blamed her like for me leaving the YouTube, and people blaming me for taking her channel down, but no, like it wasn't that. It was, in her case, it was a bunch of other issues, and in my case, a bunch of other issues. And I apologized to Exolasi multiple times since. Like, I love her. I feel like she was a badass. She was important. We may disagree on some of her methods of making, like, her content, but like she's still very important, and I hope she comes back. Like, I look up to her. I feel like it's not easy to speak out the truth. But anyway, I have ADHD and I'm medicated, so I'm like pouring in my mind is always like racing different, like 1,000 miles an hour. So anyways, I did ayahuasca, and that's when it kind of gave me some relief. I felt like I'm still like part of the universe. Like I'm still like, I don't know, it just gave me a sense of relief. That journey, it made me feel better, but I don't remember any specific lessons I walked away with. Mm-hmm. I did it twice, and it just definitely improved my mental health. It kind of made me feel like, in a larger scheme of things, like I'm just here for such a short time. Like, this reality will be over before we know it. It's just, human experience is very fleeting, and it's like I have to find some beauty in the moment, because all this is going to be over, I don't know. It just gave me good feelings about life. I remember I was able to kick my depression for a while somehow, despite all the horrendous surgeries I've gotten. But then it kind of crept back again. And I also broke up with that person in Florida. So I came back to Massachusetts, and I felt like 2 years of my life were a complete waste. I had nothing to show for it. My relationship was over. I was worse off than before with revisions that I got in Florida. It made me feel secure, because I was like, oh, my boyfriend is surgeon. Like, he like would, there's no way they'll botch me up, like, because he's a known surgeon in Florida as well. He doesn't do like any gender confirmation stuff, but he does facial work and plastic surgeries. So it kind of gave me like full sense of security that I'll be fine, there's no way they'll mess with me, and fuck me up again, but they did even worse. So that's why I was like, you know what, I need something a bit more radical, to finally, I was trying to look for meaning, I'm like, is this just random shit like happening to me? Like, what went wrong? I was so convinced I was meant to be a woman, like, I felt like my reality just doesn't make sense. Like, what am I, like, what's happening? So I like, a long story short, I did end up like meeting one dude. Like, it was so random, like, it's a whole nother story. It was just kind of serendipitous situation. It kind of found me, like, I wasn't really looking for. I've heard of that experience. somebody was telling me you should try like toad venom, 5-MeO DMT. It's like the strongest experience you could ever do, and like, and I felt like I didn't want to spend the money on it at the time. It was like a waiting list when I lived in Florida. So I was like, whatever, like, I don't think it's going to be much different from like mushrooms. I literally started medicating, with psilocybin. After ayahuasca, I started medicating with psilocybin and like cannabis and all that. So it was helping me, but I was still felt like I didn't have meaning in life. I felt like I lost it. I'm not able to have sex. My dating pool is very little. I just broke up with my boyfriend in Florida. So I didn't know what to do. So and this toad thing kind of found me. I met some random person and he was like, oh, my friend is like doing the ceremonies with a visiting shaman. Shaman
Wait,
was
like
coming.
a toad, like a rainforest thing?
No, not the
Toad?
combo. No, not the combo.
Okay.
Buffalo various, the smoking of toad venom. I know there is a frog. There is a poisonous frog from Amazon. They kind of like burn holes and put poison. That's a different situation. I have
Okay.
not done that. That one is different. And then there's a toad venom, which is 5-MeO-DMT, which is like the strongest psychedelic you could do. I
Okay.
mean, some people will argue me that ibogaine is stronger. Like I haven't done, no planning to do ibogaine, but I think 5-MeO was definitely the strongest psychedelic I've ever done. Like I literally experienced it's called God Molecule. It's very different
Okay.
from NN-DMT that Joe Rogan popularized. Everybody's like, oh, DMT, like it's so else. That's not how. That's a spirit molecule. The thing I did was
The
God
God
Molecule.
molecule.
Yeah, I know, and I know some Christians are watching this and they're gonna be so mad but that's what it's called. And I don't encourage it. I don't recommend it because I don't want to make 5-MeO-DMT popular because the frog is already almost extinct because people are capturing them.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
anyways, I experienced near death. What I could describe. I saw my whole timeline from childhood, from being a little boy in that country to the future, and
Hmm.
I saw that it was like a perfect code that my creator wrote, and there were no mistakes. Like my creator did not make a mistake. And I saw myself like through the eyes of my creator, which I kind of felt like it was higher self as well. I don't know, just like a higher version of myself slash creator, somebody who wrote that code for this like reality, for my reality. And I kind of saw at the time, I saw my masculine like moving towards me, and I don't know, I'm having hard times explaining it, but
Oh
I'll do
no,
my
no,
best to
please,
explain.
please, yeah, just
I
do your
know people
best.
are going to be like, oh,
Your masculine force or energy or self
yeah,
moving
yeah,
towards
yeah.
you.
So like, I felt like I was emitting the signal that only my species could hear. It was like certain species of whales or fish, well, not fish. I don't think fish emit signals, but like some
Dolphins
underwater
or whales,
mammals, like
yeah, yeah.
dolphins, right? So it emits certain like screeches that only their species can hear. Like, so it was kind of like that. Like I was emitting this mental signal, and I felt like in that moment I did feel like I was more feminine. Like I was the feminine energy, and I was like going through like dot to dot and expanding. Like every dot was like a lesson, and I was like expanding and meeting that signal. And my masculine was coming towards me, as well. And like he was, I don't want to say he, but I guess I don't want to gender the masculine energy. It was my masculine was here. Like gender, like literally, gender is such a traumatic subject
I
in this
know.
household. Like honestly, like I'm traumatized.
Yeah.
So anyway, so masculine was moving towards me, and masculine could hear. I don't want to say man because like masculine was moving towards me and like hearing my emission of my signal, and masculine was emitting the same signal because we were of the same species. And then we kind of like end up every like fuck up, every whatever, there was no mistake. It was leading me to this perfect outcome that I would have not changed for anything. And I also feel like I've done this many times before, and that's like it, and eventually like remove meeting the signal, and we meet, and there's this beautiful union of like masculine and feminine that resulted in every cell of my body just feels this intense. I can't explain that feeling. I don't want to say orgasm because that would cheapen it. Because oftentimes when we have orgasm in this reality, sometimes we're thinking about dirty thoughts, like thinking about dick or vagina, whatever it floats your boat to have an orgasm. But that was just pure bliss, like of union of masculine and feminine. It's
Hmm.
like the whole point of this reality was to unite with my masculine. And that kind of sent me on the whole new age spiral when I've never experienced anything like that. So I was like, what the fuck just happened?
Hmm.
Like it felt so real. I felt like I've done this many times before. Like how could I forget? Like, that's what I came here. Like, my masculine is still out there. Like, at the time, I was like, he's looking for me. You know, I can't just give up yet. Like, I need to stick around because I'm like his missing puzzle piece and he's my missing puzzle piece. Like, I need to kind of stick around. I can't just give up yet. Like, there's meaning to my timeline that deeper. And like, so it kind of gave me push, and I was like convinced, you know, I did more research, and I felt like I experienced what a lot of new age people call as twin flame union. You know, I kind of experienced it from the insides out, you know, and I started doing more research. But anyway, so what happened was I was like, wow, no way. Because I've done a lot of psychedelics before then to try to help myself. So I was like, I've never had experience like that. What the fuck was that? And I immediately signed up for another session because I wanted to go back in just to see will I get a different message. Because with psychedelics, it's always different depending what mind state you're in. So I'm like, did whatever I was going through that day influence my experience? Like, I'm just a curious cat, you know what I mean? I'm literally engaged to a cat man, so I'm a curious cat. So like, I'm like, I need to go in and see, you know, will I have a different message depending on like what I ask, what I set my mind to before going in, you know, or will it be completely the same, you know? So I signed up for another experience. Do we have time to talk about it? Like, do we have time?
Yeah.
I want to time. Okay,
I'm
cool.
curious.
You're a curious cat too.
Well, you knock on the door secondly. I'm just a little worried because the second time can be a little different than the first time. Well,
yeah, I know, exactly. So I paid for another session. Again, like I'm telling you, all the shamans, all the medical doctors, whether they're spiritual doctors or they're not there to help you. From what a lot of them just there to make money, even the spiritual shamans. So that's what I've learned going through this, because I was a very naive, sweet person before all this happened to me. Now I want to put a message out there. Just be careful, doctors you trust, regardless if you're going through transition or any kind of like anything. Just please do your own research as well. Like, don't blindly trust people just because they have MD next to their name. Just telling you guys, please learn from my lessons. So anyways, I paid for another session. I sent a little PayPal transfer, even though he's like a known shaman. He was in a bunch of documentaries about 5-MeO DMT. So initially, like I was excited to go back in, you know, my adrenaline was through the roof for the first 3 days. It almost feels like you died and came back. But you have a chance to implement those lessons that you learned during this near-death experience. But then on the third day, like I started hearing vibration of the earth. Like I couldn't be alone because I would hear like I would hear like vibration. I'm like, oh, what the hell is this? I feel like I was going crazy. I was like, whatever doors I opened, like I need to shut them now because I feel like I'm going actually crazy. And what I realized, this was the most powerful psychedelic, one of the most powerful psychedelics you could do. These people should have never just given me a medicine and just send me on my way, like without any integration. Thank God I had shamans who work with ayahuasca many times, and they've done many ayahuasca trips, and they're literally in California doing like this ayahuasca ceremonies to celebrities. Thank God I had like one person's number who I could talk to who's been through this experience, and he was like, I'm so proud of you. You did this. Don't worry, you're not going crazy. It's gonna go away. I literally had to reach out to other people who were going through the same thing, and for them to be like, don't worry, it's gonna go away. You're fine. You just need some time to integrate your experience, you know? And then I started having lucid dreams that were like completely as real as this reality, which I've never experienced before. I was seeing my day before it happened, like my timeline, my times were like collapsing. I was really scared. I was like, when I go second time, I wanted to cancel it. I emailed the shaman. I was like, you know what? Like, I'm really scared. Can I please cancel it? He's like, yeah, sure. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. But they were not going to give me a refund, just like with my surgeries. It's okay if you don't like the results, what it did to you, but you're not getting a refund, not even for prepaid sessions that's coming up. Like, and I was like, oh shit. But I was like, I'm kind of cheap. So I was like, fuck, I already paid $400. So I was like, and then,
oh no.
I know. I'm like, you know what? But also, like, I kept on having lucid dreams. I was afraid to fall asleep, you know? I was so scared because nothing scary was happening in my dreams, but they were very real. And one dream, I was literally like, woke up, saw my sister, like everything was fine. And then I woke up and I was like, I haven't seen her since. And then I went and saw her, and it was just like a Groundhog Day. Like, I'm not even kidding. I felt like I was losing my sanity. I mean, most
Mhm.
people think, I guess I must have been not insane enough to subject myself to penis amputation, but that was like a whole next level of insanity. Yeah. And
Fair
I was
point.
like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to take two friends with me. Because first time I went alone, like I drove 2.5 hours. Like what other 20 something year old, like I must have been really desperate to drive 2.5 hours, smoke toad venom with some shamans by myself, then drive back right after experience. Like, oh my God, looking back, that definitely was a manly thing to do. I don't think any average female would have done that. I don't know. Like, no shade. Okay. I don't want to perpetrate more sexist stereotype.
I
Can you
know,
please
I know.
edit that out? Please edit that out. Please do.
Why?
Because
So
people are going to
funny.
say I'm perpetuating. Yeah, I know. I feel like, okay, I shouldn't say that because there's some very brave women, so I apologize. I guess I was
Or
a brave
reckless.
person
Yeah.
or
Or
reckless,
reckless.
either.
But the
Yeah,
second time you had two
sometimes
people come up with you.
I did because I'm like, you know what, guys, I want you to film this session. And one of them was doing good too. I was like, he actually was broke at the time. So I'm like, I'll pay for your session. I just want you to tell me if you had the same experience. Because I don't want to, like, the whole trans thing made me just be cautious about things. I'm like, I need to talk to more people like who've done this before I like blindly trust something. Like, I need another person to go into this. Like, I know he was struggling with depression too, and he was open to psychedelics, and he's done a lot. So I was like, yeah, I would like that. I'm just like, I lost my job. I'm like, I'll pay for it, like whatever, I'll pay for it, right? Like, to the universe, like, I'll pay for your session. I just want to compare my experience to yours. And I wanted to serve French Curtis. He couldn't do it. He wanted to do it, but he was on SSRIs. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, we went through shit like that. I feel like a lot of people that I was friends with were friends that also went through a lot of bullshit in their lives because I kind of can understand those people better.
Yeah.
There are a lot of unfortunately depressed people, not necessarily trans, like gender confused people, but just people who've been through shit. So anyway, so 301 drove again. I was so scared because the night before I also had another lucid dream experience where I was like flying with wings and there were all these people trying to talk to me. I could touch them, I could interact with them. It was really scary. And I knew it wasn't my base reality and I wanted to leave it and come back to this one, but I didn't know how to. And I like finally woke up. I'm like, thank God. And I was so scared the whole 2.5 hour ride. I was trying to tell the shaman that I'm like super scared. It's like, oh, don't worry, blah, blah, blah. Giving me the whole new age bullshit. Like, oh, it's fear of your ancestors. You need to heal. It's no different than like regular surgeons that are telling you to like, oh, you didn't dilate enough. And I'm literally telling them like I dilated religiously. They're like, oh no, it's your fault. Like it's the same as spiritual shamans
Mm-hmm.
sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So literally I was so scared. And I smoked it again and I went back into that space and it was exactly the same as first experience.
Okay.
And my other friend did, and when I talked to him, his experience was completely different. And to me, it was shocking because I felt like I've never had two exactly the same experiences on psychedelics because they're always different, kind of. No, like I said, it's really very relevant on set and setting and like your mood that day or what you're going through that week. But this one was exactly the same. Yeah, I was again in that subspace where I was moving towards my masculine, and again it resulted in this beautiful nirvana state that union ended up in, and it was just so like. And my dreams went away because going in, I was like, please just take away whatever is happening to me because I just want to be like back to my before I smoked this toad venom because it's too much. Like, and it all stopped. It kind of grounded me back into this
Oh,
reality. Like,
okay. Oh,
never came back. Yeah,
oh, that's
it's almost
lucky.
made me. Yes, yeah, I know. Thank God. I never heard again vibrations like stuff like that.
Some things you
Or
don't need to
yeah,
hear. Some
yeah, no,
doors
no,
you don't
no.
need to
Like
open.
yeah, exactly. No way. I don't want to, I will never do it again unless I'm really suicidal. I was considering doing it before going into therapy, but this time I'm like, you know what, I'll go into actual therapy.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyways, I was convinced that I was going to meet, my twin flame and that's my whole purpose in this reality is to unite with my masculine. So when I got into those two relationships, it was confusing because I loved them both. And I was like, which one's my twin flame? Like, it was just so weird because I loved them both and like they loved me both and they kind of knew about each other, it's like, but they were asking like typical, I don't want to say typical, okay, I'm going to strain away from those words, but like, I guess neither of them wanted to share me and I had to kind of eventually make a choice.
Yeah.
And So I ended up with a Catman. I mean, but when Catman left Massachusetts because he also got depressed, because he was living in my house with his cat, plus my ex-husband, plus 3 cats, plus we're trying to buy a house when everybody else is trying to buy a house. So it was just a very stressful time. Plus I was grieving the loss of my other partner because I still care for him. It was a legitimate loss. Like, so I was just so confused, you know? And then once I took testosterone, it just kind of hit me. I was like, fuck, I may have misinterpreted the message. Maybe it was about balancing my masculine, and this time it was about like, I think this reality was about using my masculine and feminine together instead of killing my masculine. So, but in a way, once I had that realization, I got Catman back into my life, you know? So I kind of maybe got both, but I definitely, that experience taught me that my creator didn't make a mistake. And like, I should have never.
You are your own twin flame.
I am, yeah, and it's very toxic to be like, oh, I need to find my twin flame, like in the other reality where I could have been my own twin flame. In a way, I could have been spiritual autogynephile. Okay, you heard this here first. I could have been a spiritual autogynephile. You know, those twin flame people, they're looking for a twin flame, and I could have been my own. But yeah, so. But
so you're speaking out. I hear you have a lot of energy, and you really want to protect people from making the mistakes that you've made. And I have to tell you that the momentum is not working in your favor at this time. Like, there's a huge establishment. There's a lot of force. It's not going to end tomorrow. The dragon's not going to be slain by one sword puncturing its heart. But so I want to give you hope with that, but I also want to use that as a question to ask you, what do you see as your work going forward? What's kind of, have you figured out like the concrete message that you want to send, and then how you're going to expand on that?
I honestly don't know. I feel like the surgeries, in my hearts of hearts, I believe these are surgeries that need more exploration. And this whole medicalization of feeling like a woman or feeling like a man or feeling like something else definitely needs more scientific research. And it's absolutely unsafe, in my opinion, after everything I've been through and talking to the transitioners and other people who are still identifying as trans but have complications and all that. We just don't know like the long-term results of all this. And I would like the surgeries to be banned for people under 18 and hopefully under 25 across the country in America. And I know it's going to be a very uphill battle because a lot of people are infatuated with the whole trans thing.
And the trans kid being paraded through psychological conferences, that's not at all spiritual and religious. That's some weird kind of offering going on there.
Yeah, also like when I went to like cult meetings, like first years there were just like a bunch of cross-dressers and people like me who are adults like trying to figure things out. But shortly after we started having trans kids and they were like so celebrated, you know. But I was on as well because I was like, oh, my voice would have been more passable. Because some people also telling me that I'm unhappy with my transition because I'm not passable. And for those of you who don't know, passable is like a toxic notion of how much you can emulate the stereotype of another sex, which is completely disgusting and toxic and sad. So it's like people saying I'm not passable. So like if I was a trans kid and I was like didn't masculinize, I would have been more passable and happier. But also Marcy Bowers, who's the head, if anything, anybody, I've been like, that's what I'm promoting. Marcy Bowers definitely needs to be investigated because Marcy Bowers is the head of WPAS, and Marcy has been setting standards. It's part of
setting the standards of care.
Standards for care for the surgeries that she does through, like Marcy does through private practice and have been doing for years and profiting of. And Marcy just came out and made a statement that like M2Fs that were on blockers and had the surgery will never experience an orgasm because they never had testosterone. And why didn't they make that statement sooner? Maybe Jazz Jennings' family could have made a different decision for Jazz. You know what I mean?
Well, there was a lot written on Jazz family. I mean, the fame quotient, I think, would have...
They can still be as famous if they bring this thing down by being honest and saying that maybe this wasn't a good decision for Jazz, you know? But regardless, how are you going to say we're helping kids to be authentic selves when one spectrum of those kids that are transitioning from male to female may never know what it's like to have an orgasm. as somebody who lost my dick, like I realized I could have had so many orgasms during this 7 years. Now it's like I feel angry as I stole my orgasms. I could have had a few a day, and now I can barely have one a week. Like, so it's just like, and some kids will never know what it's like. And I know it may sound creepy, but like as you get older, like it's part of human experience to be able to achieve one, you know, with your partner. It's part of beauty of human experience, you know, and like I don't think it's very fair to like, it's very unethical that Marcy just came out with the statement when X1 has been ringing bell for a while about this, you know, and in part, I feel like maybe X1 making those videos forced Marcy to say that, finalize that statement. So at least parents have better information. But also in some countries now, parents, if they try to tell their kids otherwise, try to offer them some additional therapies, it could be considered child abuse if they don't help.
You lose your kid in under certain circumstances, yeah.
This is just insane. Honestly, now that I'm awakened to the reality and everything that I've been through, that would be my fight in the long run, to literally ban surgeries. And seeing like Karina Cohen, like she's been on your channel, she's honestly giving me hope, and like that there'll be more trans people coming forward. And part of, you know, I get a lot of flack from the trans community because I still haven't cut my hair and like remove my makeup. But I just want to say that why do you need to be like, oh, women can have penises? You can be a man.
People are again pressuring you to be less feminine.
Yeah, I cannot
fucking
win.
Circle, dude.
I can't win, dude. I can't win.
You just can't win. So sorry.
I can't win. I can't win.
It's hilarious.
Now people saying I'm too feminine. It's gay, man. I cannot win. My childhood people said you're too feminine. You're not a real man. Some people said you're not a real woman. Now it's like you're not a real man. I'm like,
there's so many other things that you can do to improve yourself, to do good work in the world, and to be a good person to other people, and maybe not being sexy enough, not being masculine enough, not being feminine enough. It's all just distraction from not loving yourself and other people enough, and getting in the way of just, you know, sharing your light.
Right.
Sharing your light. So
I just hope, like, by even I went on Ariel Scarcella. I hope I didn't butcher her last name. I'm sorry, Ariel. I went on her channels. So yeah, she's great. She's so brave. Honestly, if I model myself after women like her that are like badass and not afraid to speak out after women like X1, you know, instead of trying to be like what I thought men would like, which is dumb, you know, which is like, women come in different shapes and sizes. Like, honestly, like before I even came out, I was like looking up to Ariel for a while because she was speaking out the truth, and no matter how unpopular the opinion was, you know. Honestly, like X1 and Ariel and like Blair White and some other people inspired me to and gave me this chance to speak out and be like, what's happening is not right and we need to stop it. But I honestly don't know how we're gonna tackle those dragons that's like flying around and like setting everything on fire. I just hope even trans people will understand that like they need to do more research, that like they shouldn't be promoting the surgeries, especially if they haven't gotten them. I don't know, people who are holding trans kid signs at the parade, do you even know trans kid, like personally? Do you know somebody who was a trans kid and left 20-30 years and was still happy and said like, I will not change anything about this situation? No, I don't think so. The only famous trans kids we have is Jazz Jennings, and we're all seeing that. I don't think that person is very happy. I mean, it's my personal opinion. Somebody's gonna be like, you're not a medical professional, but I'm like, from what I can see, I don't think that transition is going so well for that person. And I guess we have a couple of others, like Kim Petras. I guess that person had surgery when they were 16. I can't speak on that person because I don't know much other than they're doing some music career. I don't know. Like, I think we need more evidence, more happy transitioners towards that actually gotten the full surgery, you know. I know a lot of happy transitioners that have not gotten the bottom surgery, like Blair White and like some people I know in real life. I feel like they're still getting to, okay, this is gonna sound controversial. I do feel like they're still getting to use both male and female privilege. And like, you know, in a way some of them have, I don't know, like some people claim to be taking hormones, but some people I know that have still fully functional penises and they still get to use female privilege, you know, in a way, like, you know, using female spaces, and I don't know, having access to female spaces while still having a fully functional penis and having male sex drive, which now I know it can be a curse, but it can also be a blessing, because the reason I have so much energy now is because I'm taking testosterone. Before I was like very like, you know, a very typical trans woman. You can't call me he, you can't say anything like that will set me off. I'll go on a crying binge. Now I'm like, I'm a man, and like they did me wrong, so I need to speak out. And honestly, it became actually, also I realized as a sensitive boy growing up, killing my masculine was the worst thing I could have done, because I became more emotional. And honestly, I couldn't even get over
your masculine was protecting you in a way.
It was protecting me in a way, you know, even though I was a very emotional kid, you know, I still had a lot of feminine energy, what would traditionally be considered feminine energy. Like, I have to explain this so people don't cancel me for this at least. Yeah, so that's why, like, as I started taking testosterone back in my body, I'm like, I don't care as much about people's opinions, you know? And also, I finally stopped thinking about my ex from a year ago. I'm like, oh, I feel so free. I'm not thinking about him. Like, it's over.
Yeah.
Almost like
you get to be a bit of a dick now.
Yeah, I get. Okay, I don't want to say anything stereotypical, but like, yeah, in a way.
It's fine. My channel is filled with
controversial stuff.
Controversial, regressive.
Yeah. Well, that's where I'm at, and honestly, I'm gonna go to as many channels as I can and talk about it, because my sexual life, I took a real hit through this affirming care, and honestly. People should at least be aware. I think we're not going to be able to fully stop the trans community, but at least maybe we'll make people question if medicalization is the right thing, you know? I want a future where people embrace their biological blueprint, because I realized I made a huge damage to my original blueprint, which was an important part of what I was meant to be, you know? I don't think I was meant to be a woman. I was meant to expand the definition of a man, because feminine men are always been treated like shit by both gay guys and straight guys. So, and I hope that in the future, there is place for men like me, so we don't feel like we need to transition to be able to wear makeup or have long hair and not experience male violence against us, you know, and that's what I want to try to portray. And I hope some trans people who see the way I look and the way I speak, maybe it will also inspire them just to at least drop trans label and be like, you know what, I am a man with a dick and titties, and love it or shove it, you know? We don't need to try to be like, I'm a woman, you know? And try to make it more difficult for a woman, you know, and like compete in their sports. And I don't stand for that. I don't want people standing for that. That's obnoxious. Please stop now. Like, yeah, I'm encouraging, if any trans influencers sees this, just please drop trans label, be something else, because kids are watching your channel. People like Sam Lux, Maya Henry, maybe transition worked for them, but so many people may fall into their step and not be a real trans. Like, I'm not a real trans, you know, but I was convinced I was one. So it's just like, this needs more exploration. Just, guys, even if you don't agree with TERFs and stuff, some of these people are really compassionate people. They're not all TERFs. They're just concerned that the searchers are not safe, and I don't think they are after everything I've seen. So that's the message I want to put out. I want to see a future where people embrace their biological sex, but express outwardly any ways they want without being targeted, without feeling like they had to belong on some kind of spectrum, you know? That's it.
Well, thank you so much. Are you still nervous?
I'm such a fan of yours. I don't know. I completely bombed Ariel one. I'm so embarrassed with the Ariel situation, because I literally couldn't sleep a night before. I was so nervous. And I like wrote down the notes, and usually I'm freestyling, and I was trying to look at the notes. It was just so awkward. I really bombed that.
Maybe you could do another redo.
I don't know, we'll see. But I felt more I know at least now I need to freestyle, because this one's a little more flowy and more authentic. Thank you, Ben, for all your work.
So you only have a Twitter right now? You have a YouTube? Where can people find you?
I am on YouTube under Shapeshifter. Just type in Shapeshifter, two separate words, and my videos will pop up. On Twitter, and Shifter of Shapes, like plural shapes, because Shifter of Shape was already taken. Yeah, so you can follow me and see my content. I'm trying to I also give a lot of hope to the transitioners, that there is still life after dropping trans label and like moving through life, embracing your original sex, And that's what I'm hoping to. I don't know how my life is
Yeah,
gonna
yeah, yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I encourage you to keep speaking out. The male detransitioner space is underrepresented, and there's a lot of different sub-genres of the detrans male, and you're speaking to a very specific type of man. And I really appreciate what you said about expanding the definition of male to include and accept the feminine male. And we could do as men a lot more to accept those fellas and even help them from doing irreparable harm to themselves in the quest to get away from the trauma that comes from expectations that we put on them that we don't need to.
Is the reversible damage already trademarked? Is that why you said harm? I'm
we can
kidding.
still say it. Abigail put that out there. Sure, I put that out there.
Yeah, I know. Anyways, this was fun. Thank you so much for giving me a platform to speak about this issue that's very important to me. So
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on.
thank you, Ben. Have a good one.
Okay, hold on.